All right, so welcome to this deep dive. Today, we are exploring something pretty interesting. We're going to be looking at the question, was the annexation of Hawaii actually illegal?
Mm.
And we've got some really cool source material for this one.
Oh, great.
Yeah, we've got, let's see, an expert presentation. Oh, and it focuses on international law
Okay.
and a historical overview of the Hawaiian monarchy.
It's a topic that a lot of people, I think, don't really quite understand, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
So getting into it and seeing the kind of the nuts and bolts of it can be really helpful, I think.
Oh, absolutely. And you know what? When I was digging into this stuff, I gotta say, some of the things I found were really surprising.
Oh, really?
Like, really shocking, actually.
Okay.
For example, the expert who gave the presentation is actually a professor
Oh, wow.
at the University of Hawaii.
Mm.
And he mentioned that a lot of his students, who are teachers themselves,
Mm-hmm.
have no idea they've been teaching the wrong history about Hawaii.
Oh,
Like, they're out there teaching, and it's like, oh, what?
that's wild.
It's crazy. So yeah, let's dive in and see what we can uncover.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay, great. Well, I guess a good place to start is just to kind of lay the historical groundwork.
Right.
You know, the Hawaiian Kingdom, a lot of people don't even realize it was like, you know, a sovereign state.
Right. Yeah, it was like a real deal country.
Yeah, like on the world stage.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the historical overview that we have lays it out pretty clearly.
Okay.
The Hawaiian Kingdom was recognized as an independent state
Okay.
by major world powers, like all the big ones,
Hmm.
starting back in 1843.
Wow, that's a while ago.
Yeah, so we're talking Great Britain, France, the U.S.,
Mm-hmm.
like all these countries, they acknowledge Hawaii's sovereignty.
Yeah, and it wasn't just, just like a handshake, like we recognize you. They had like treaties and embassies,
Oh, wow.
the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
And by 1893, they had over 90 embassies and consulates worldwide.
Oh, my gosh, that's a lot. And you know what's really interesting? Like, even today,
Yeah.
you can still see a little bit of this history
Mm-hmm.
in Hawaii's state flag.
Okay.
They still have the Union Jack on it,
Wow. Yeah.
which is a direct link
Yeah.
to their past, you know, as a British protectorate before they became independent.
That's a really cool observation. I never really thought about it that way, but that's a direct link, It
Yeah.
shows how deep the history goes,
Yeah.
for the
Totally.
Hawaiian Kingdom.
It's pretty fascinating. So it seems pretty straightforward, right?
Yeah.
But then things get a little murky when we get to 1893.
Okay.
That's when things really start to kind of go sideways.
Yeah.
This was a pivotal year where you had the invasion
Hmm.
and the overthrow of the Hawaiian government.
Yeah.
And, you know, our expert, he's got this military background.
Okay.
So he really knows this
Yeah.
stuff. And he explained how this situation actually triggered something called a state of war,
Okay.
according to international law.
Oh, wow.
So I was wondering, can you kind of break that down for us? Like, what does that actually mean?
Sure. So basically in the world of international law, you got this thing, we call it acts of war.
Okay.
Right. And so when those U.S. Marines landed in Honolulu, January 16th, 1893, it wasn't just like a casual visit,
Right.
It was a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
And in fact, President Cleveland himself,
Oh, wow.
as it's documented in the presentation, he actually acknowledged that this landing was an act of war,
Okay.
and that it basically started a state of war
Wow.
between the U.S. and the Hawaiian Kingdom.
Oh, wow. So wait. So if Hawaii was already, like, you know, a country,
Right.
how could the U.S. just annex it?
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't seem legal at all.
It's a good question, and that's what a lot of people ask, and the U.S., they tried to justify the annexation.
Right.
They pointed to the Spanish-American War,
Mhm.
which happened, a little bit later in 1898,
Okay.
and they said, well, we needed to take control of Hawaii
Okay.
because it was like a military necessity. They got to fight those Spanish,
Yeah. Okay, so they're using the war as an excuse.
Well, that's one way to look at it for sure.
Yeah.
But the expert, he brings up this book called The Handbook of Humanitarian Law,
Okay.
and it straight up says, no, annexation under those circumstances, that's illegal, under international law.
Right.
And he points out that the U.S. argument really sidesteps this crucial concept called usurpation of sovereignty.
Usurpation of sovereignty.
Yeah.
That sounds intense.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
So, to put it simply, usurpation of sovereignty, it basically means when one country illegally takes over, like forces their laws and their control over another country that's already recognized as independent.
Okay.
Right. And here's the kicker.
Yeah.
This very act of usurpation of sovereignty, it was officially recognized as a war crime back in 1919.
Wow.
In the aftermath of World War I.
A war crime.
Yeah.
Okay, so what happened after the overthrow then?
Right.
Did Hawaii just like automatically become part of the U.S.?
It wasn't quite that simple. You see, what followed was something called denationalization.
Denationalization.
Yeah. It was basically a systematic effort to suppress, even erase Hawaiian national identity, particularly among the younger generations.
Yeah.
They wanted to replace the Hawaiian culture and governance with American, ideals and practices.
So it was more than just a political takeover, it was a cultural takeover.
Exactly. Yeah.
How did that impact people?
It was pretty profound.
Yeah.
And we can still see those impacts today. Think about it. Children in schools being forced to salute the American flag.
Wow.
And recite pledges of loyalty to the United States.
Yeah.
And they were discouraged from speaking their own language, practicing their own cultural traditions.
That's heartbreaking.
It is. It's really sad.
Yeah.
And the expert, he has some really chilling details about this period.
Okay.
He talks about this program. It was called Patriotic Exercises.
Patriotic exercises.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was implemented in the Hawaiian schools. And it was designed to basically, indoctrinate the children into American culture to basically get them to, think of themselves as American and forget their Hawaiian identity.
Erase their Hawaiianness.
Yeah, exactly. And he even quotes this historical figure, Samuel Damon, who was a trustee of the Kamehameha schools. And he said, if we were ever to have peace and annexation, the first thing to do is to obliterate the past. Yeah.
That's really disturbing.
It is.
And to think this was all happening while the world was like grappling with the horrors of World War I.
Right.
And condemning these very acts, things like denationalization.
Right, yeah.
As war crimes.
Yeah, the irony is not lost,
Yeah.
And it's really concerning because denationalization, it's not just considered a war crime.
Right.
It can also be classified as a crime against humanity, cultural genocide, under international law.
Yeah.
It's a very serious violation of the Hawaiian people's, fundamental rights.
So where does that leave the Hawaiian kingdom then today?
Right.
If this occupation has been going on for over a century, is there any hope for justice, recognition?
That's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
You see, despite the prolonged occupation, the Hawaiian kingdom, it never really ceased to exist.
Really?
In the eyes of international law.
So they're still like a sovereign state?
Yeah. In a legal sense, yeah.
Okay.
The expert, he points to a case from 2001. It's called Larson v. Hawaiian Kingdom.
Okay.
And in this case, the Permanent Court of Arbitration, they implicitly acknowledged the continued existence of the Hawaiian Kingdom.
Wow. So an international court actually recognized Hawaii's sovereignty.
They did.
Okay.
And it's important to note that the U.S. government, they were aware of this case.
Okay.
There's documentation showing that the U.S. actually entered into an agreement with the Hawaiian Council Regency, acknowledging them as a legitimate governing body.
This is like something out of a history thriller or something.
It's wild, isn't it?
Yeah, like a nation existing in this state of legal limbo.
Right.
Occupied by a global superpower, but still holding on to its claim of sovereignty.
It's complicated for sure. And the efforts to expose this ongoing occupation, they're continuing.
Okay.
Organizations like the National Education Association, the National Lawyers Guild, they've passed resolutions condemning the 1893 overthrow, the subsequent occupation. There's a growing body of academic research, legal scholarship, that's shedding light on Hawaii's unique situation.
So it's not just about like righting a historical wrong.
Right.
It's about addressing like an ongoing situation.
Yes.
With like real implications today.
Yeah.
For people.
Absolutely.
And this kind of brings us to something that you mentioned earlier. This possibility that that war crimes are actually still being committed in Hawaii today.
Yeah.
That's something that I find deeply concerning. You know, if these acts that we've been talking about,
right,
they're recognized as war crimes, what's to stop them from continuing?
Yeah, it's a disturbing thought.
Yeah.
And the expert's presentation suggests that these concerns are valid.
Yeah.
He reveals that in 2019, a Royal Commission of Inquiry was established.
Wow.
Specifically to investigate allegations of ongoing war crimes.
I had no idea. So
Yeah.
this isn't just a historical debate.
Right.
There's an active investigation happening right now.
Yes.
Wow.
And it's being taken very seriously.
Okay.
The expert himself, you know, in his role with the Hawaiian Council Regency, he was appointed as the head of this Royal Commission.
Okay.
And they've assembled this team of international legal experts to examine the evidence.
This is incredible. So what have they found so far?
Yeah.
Like, are there really war crimes happening in Hawaii today?
Well, the evidence is compelling.
Okay.
The expert, he presented his findings to the UN Human Rights Council.
Wow.
In 2022.
Okay.
Detailing what he believes are ongoing war crimes that result from this usurpation of sovereignty.
Okay, can you give us some specifics?
Sure.
Like, what kind of war crimes are we talking about?
Well, consider, for example, the surcharge that tourists pay.
Okay.
On top of the regular sales tax in Hawaii. It's like 17.75%.
Wow.
And according to the expert, you know, this surcharge, it's a direct result of this war crime.
Okay.
Of usurpation of sovereignty.
So even something as, like, ordinary as paying taxes
Right.
could be considered a war crime.
In this context, yes.
That's mind-blowing.
It really is. And it's not just tourists that are affected. You know, everyone in Hawaii, they're subjected to American laws that, from this perspective, have no legal authority in what is considered a foreign occupied state. It really shows how entrenched this occupation is, impacting everyday life in Hawaii. And the Royal Commission of Inquiry, they've actually identified specific individuals in leadership positions within the U.S. And Hawaiian state governments who they believe are responsible for these alleged war crimes.
Wait, so they've actually named names?
They have.
What?
The Royal Commission of Inquiry, they've published reports identifying these individuals, outlining their alleged roles in war crimes.
Okay.
We're talking about high-ranking officials who, according to this investigation, are knowingly participating in acts that violate international law.
This is heavy stuff.
It is.
What are the potential consequences here?
Right.
Can these individuals be held accountable?
Well, that remains to be seen.
Yeah.
You know, it's important to remember that there's no statute of limitations for war crimes.
Right.
These individuals, regardless of their current positions of power, they could potentially face prosecution even decades from now.
It feels like we're on the verge of something huge here.
It is big.
Like, what would happen to Hawaii?
Right.
Even to the U.S. If the world were to fully acknowledge what's been happening all along.
It's a big question.
Yeah.
With enormous implications. And the expert in his presentation, he brings up this concept.
Okay.
It's called the responsibility to protect.
Responsibility to protect.
Yeah.
Or R2P.
R2P.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's under international law. And this principle, it obligates the international community to intervene in situations where a state is unable or unwilling to protect its own population from things like genocide, war crimes, ethnic cleansing, crimes against humanity.
So you're saying that the UN could potentially step in and force the U.S. to end the occupation of Hawaii?
It's possible.
Okay.
It's a complex situation, though.
Yeah.
You know, the situation in Hawaii, it's unprecedented. It's got this unique set of historical and legal circumstances.
Yeah.
There's no clear roadmap for how the international community might respond.
This is a lot to process.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It's fascinating, but also kind of disturbing.
It is. It's both.
To think about the potential consequences.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a complex issue.
Yeah.
With far-reaching implications.
For sure. Yeah, it really makes you think about how history isn't just something in the past, you know?
Right.
It's like still shaping our present and future in ways that we don't even realize.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's especially true in this case. You know,
Yeah.
if we were to, acknowledge the Hawaiian Kingdom's sovereignty today, it wouldn't just be symbolic.
Right.
It would have some pretty significant and potentially like disruptive implications.
Okay.
For the existing political and legal kind of landscape. So you're saying it could like lead to some major changes.
Yeah, for sure. Think about it. Land ownership, voting rights, taxation, the structure of governance, everything.
Yeah.
Everything would be like up for renegotiation.
Wow. It would be like hitting a reset button on everything.
In many ways, yeah. And the ripple effects, I mean, it could go way beyond Hawaii,
Yeah.
What kind of message would it send to other nations?
Yeah.
Would it like embolden groups, who are seeking self-determination in other disputed territories around the world?
Right.
These are questions we can't ignore.
It's almost like dizzying.
Yeah.
To think about all the potential consequences.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It feels like we've kind of stumbled onto this hidden truth.
Right.
That could really shake things up in a big way.
It really highlights, the importance of understanding history and how relevant it is to our present-day realities, And the situation in Hawaii is such a compelling example of how the past, it's never really over, It continues to shape our world in these really profound ways.
This has been a lot to absorb. I mean, we've gone from this seemingly simple question.
Right.
About the legality of annexation.
Yeah.
To this deep exploration of like international law, war crimes, like the very concept of sovereignty.
Right. And even with everything we've discussed, this is really just scratching the surface.
Right.
There's a wealth of information out there for anyone who wants to, dive in.
So what can our listener do with all of this knowledge?
Right.
It's not like we can, single-handedly like resolve an issue with such global implications.
Yeah, for sure. But I think understanding the complexities, like that's a really crucial first step.
Okay.
And the expert in his presentation, he emphasized this. The importance of critical thinking, asking questions, engaging in informed dialogue.
Yeah.
He also really underscored the significance of that responsibility to protect doctrine, not just as a legal concept, but as a call to action.
Yeah, so it's about becoming aware, like educating ourselves, and then considering what role, if any, we might play in advocating for a just resolution.
Exactly, yeah. And remember, this isn't just an abstract legal debate.
Right.
This is about real people and their lives.
Yeah.
Throughout his presentation, the expert, he really emphasized that human element of this story. And as a descendant of those who were directly impacted by the overthrow, he feels a deep personal connection to setting the record straight and making sure that the voices of the Hawaiian people are heard.
That's a powerful reminder that history isn't just about like dates and events. It's about the lives and experiences of real people.
It is.
Yeah.
It's their stories that make history come alive and help us understand, the lasting consequences of choices made generations ago.
Well, listeners, we've reached the end of our deep dive into this complex and fascinating question. Of Hawaii's annexation, we've uncovered some shocking truths.
Yeah.
Explored some pretty intricate legal concepts. And we've grappled with the potential for ongoing injustices.
Hopefully this has sparked your curiosity.
Yeah.
Encouraged you to learn more about this often overlooked chapter of history.
And remember, this is just the beginning of the conversation.
Right.
Keep exploring, keep researching, keep questioning the narratives that you encounter. And, as always, stay curious.
Be curious.
And stay informed.